We've all been betrayed. Luke found out the hard way when the villain he was fighting turned out to be his dad.
I am your father.
No. It's not true. That's impossible.
Sometimes it's a friend, maybe even your closest confidant, who stabs you right in the back.
No. What you did,
I
made
cool.
the whole thing up.
It's
Dwight.
cool. The Sebring's cool.
Oh, do you?
Do
you like it? How dare you? How dare you, Dwight?
Don't fire me.
I don't know if I can trust you.
You can't, but I promise I'll never betray you again.
Well, Democrats now have someone they need to worry about. And this time, Democrats don't even need to turn around. They can see the knife going in. And it's one of their power players, an up-and-comer, and a darling of the left, AOC. She's already on thin ice after not endorsing Joe.
President Biden, he is saying he's going to run again in 2024. Will you support him?
You know, if the president chooses to run again in 2024, I mean, first of all, I'm focused on winning this majority right now. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think if the president has a vision, then that's something certainly we're all willing to entertain and examine when the time comes.
That's not a yes.
Yeah, you know, I think we should endorse when we get to it. But
See, now AOC is kind of starting to sound like a defector. She's saying a lot more than she should. Maybe Nancy's grip on her is loosening after Paulie P's arrest, but it's not like this is totally unexpected. She's been going rogue for years.
There's a very, very, very direct connection between us holding ourselves to a higher standard, holding and having that include our families. And, you know, and there are many different proposals here, but, you know, whether it's spouses, whether it's children, we have to be able to assure the American people that it's not happening here and that they don't have to worry about if they're competing with their member of Congress's stock portfolio.
So nobody in Democrat leadership is happy about this, and now they're definitely not going to be happy after what we're about to show you. Watch.
There were actual officers working with this, and we never got to the bottom of that, and we never got any answers about that. And then to this day, we're just supposed to pretend that that never happened. I have no idea what happened to the people on the inside who were very clearly sympathetic with what was going on and opening the doors wide open for that. And I'm supposed to sit here and pretend like none of that ever happened. And then right afterwards, you have a massive, you know, you just have this idea that throwing money at that problem is going to make it go away without any accountability.
AOC is suggesting that January 6th might have been an inside job. How come Twitter hasn't banned that? She's getting into some very dangerous territory here. Where's the disinformation czar when you need her? Mary Poppins.
Information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious.
Did the squad just suggest that the Capitol Police were in on the January 6th riot and opened the doors? I thought you weren't allowed to say that. I thought that makes you a conspiracy theorist. Nancy is not going to be happy about this.
Yesterday, the world saw the truth of January 6th. They saw what we knew, that our Capitol Police and the Metropolitan Police of Washington, D.C. were our heroes.
Were the Capitol Police officers heroes or insurrectionists? I don't know. It's just something the Democrats seem to be fighting over. And this isn't the first time AOC said something was fishy about those Capitol Police.
I hear boom, 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 boom. I jump into my bathroom that whoever was trying to get inside got into my office. I just start to hear these yells of, "Where is she? Where is she?" I thought I was going to die. I come out, and this man is a Capitol Police officer. He was looking at me with a tremendous amount of anger and hostility. Things weren't adding up. Like there was no partner there. I didn't know if he was there to help us or hurt us.
Well, last year, AOC even refused to vote to fund the Capitol Police. She voted present instead. Very Obama-esque. Well, If the January 6th Commission is going to investigate AOC's claims, they're going to need some evidence. And AOC will be submitting this video into the record.
AOC, my favorite big booty Latina. I love you, AOC. You're my favorite. She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. You look very beautiful in that dress. You look very sexy. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
I want you to do a little selfie.
I love it. My favorite AOC. Nice to meet you, AOC. Look how sexy she looks in that dress. Woo, I love it, AOC. Hot, hot, hot like a tamale.
First of all, you can't do that. That's just not a classy thing to do. We can't have provocateurs on either side harassing women while they go to work. And you can't be harassing men when they go to work either. I am not a piece of meat. And AOC is not a hot tamale. And she's not a taco, as Jill Biden says. She is a human being. AOC is saying we need more good men out there because the Capitol Police officers, she says, didn't do their job.
See this guy right there? Right there. When I was walking up, he said, hey, right in front of a Capitol Police officer, said, hey, here's this, look at that big ass, look at that big juicy booty, this Latina, like whatever, you know, all the bunch of racist, sexist stuff. I think the thing that was so crazy about that incident is not even that it happened, but that it happened on the Capitol steps right in front of a Capitol Police officer. And this dude was engaged, like this wasn't about a political opinion, a protest, or anything like that. He was engaged in very clearly sexually threatening, aggressive behavior right in front, on the Capitol steps in front of an officer. And he wasn't even asked to take a step back. Like, this officer was just cool with it.
She's making the point that the heckler wasn't engaged in legitimate political protest, which is his right in which AOC should expect. He was catcalling her. And she wants to know, where are the big, strong, chivalrous men who should be protecting me? Well, we couldn't help but notice AOC's fiancé, the redhead wearing shorts and moccasins, holding a leash, didn't protect her at all. In fact, he just speeds right up the stairs. But I don't know what she wants the cops to do. Arrest him, shoot him like Ashley Babbitt, or just tell him to step off. It's unclear. It is clear the guy was not a good guy, but what does she want the police officer to do? What is clear is that AOC had no problem when left-wing protesters chased Kavanaugh out of a restaurant last week. And last month, when that psycho showed up outside his house to assassinate him, she didn't really say much. Instead, she voted against the bill that would have given all the justices extra security. She didn't even vote present on that one. And remember when Rand Paul got roughed up by a mob of Biden voters outside the White House in 2020? What did AOC say about that? Couldn't find anything. To AOC, those aren't crimes. The police's only job is to protect Democrats from Republicans. And for some reason, they aren't doing their job.
Since nobody can do anything, I'm just telling you because this institution is not designed to protect people. And it's really hard and it's really sad that my only recourse is to just let you know about it. But that's the institution we're in.
So, the Capitol Police are corrupt. Go on.
Really just can't help but think about all of that footage and evidence that we saw the day of, all these Capitol Police officers helping and being sympathetic to the insurrectionists on January 6th. And everyone just decided it was too politically difficult to deal with. So they all just brushed it under the rug. And to this day, there has never been an investigation into that. Never. So as a result, we have no idea which officers are safe to be around. We have no idea if any of those officers and the ones holding massive weapons were with that crowd or if they weren't. But if you raise questions about that, or if you don't feel safe, it's construed as you attacking the entire institution of public safety. Riddle me that. Riddle me that. And we saw a lot of that show up, not just in our politics now, but even the State of the Union. Because now both parties are in a contest of how much money they can shovel in this system without critically holding any of it accountable. It is dangerous.
AOC is right about that. Questioning the institutions in D.C. is dangerous. That's why we're not allowed to ask about January 6th, the FBI's role in the collusion hoax, the State Department covering up Benghazi, the Wuhan lab. Welcome to my world, AOC. Dip your toe in. The water's warm. Next thing you know, the Congresswoman is going to start asking about the laptop from hell. So AOC is a live wire and a big problem for the Democrats. She's calling the January 6th committee a sham, saying her side of the aisle is covering up the truth about what happened that day. And that's a very dangerous place for AOC to be. The Democratic Party doesn't tolerate dissent. And Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff will be out for revenge.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.